I'm here to attend the meeting. It's been very interesting for me. My main area of interest is looking at the issues of sustainable water supplies for cities and looking at the environment side of things, and not to look at it negatively. There's been a lot of interest on the impacts of cities on water and pollution and overusing water and the impacts on the environment. This we all know about. There is a more positive story to tell in the way in which cities can manage the environment better in order to solve some of their water supply problems. For example, how they can invest money in restoring watersheds, improving land management outside of cities to improve water quality. And by taking this kind of approach, cities can actually save money. They spend less money on treating water which is of poor quality, which is an expensive process to undertake, and in many cases it's much better for cities to actually spend some of that money on restoring catchments, restoring land management practices outside of cities in order to solve some of their water quality problems. And we're finding that a lot of cities are moving in this direction now, making cost savings by investing in environmental protection. Another area of interest is with flood management, for example. Flooding is now becoming an increasing risk for cities. One of the reasons why cities are becoming more vulnerable to flooding is because there has been a tendency to remove wetlands outside of cities. And wetlands, one of the functions of wetlands is to actually absorb water during heavy rainfalls. So when you remove those wetlands, the water then gets carried much faster to cities and causes lots of problems. So one of the interesting trends now with cities and water management is actually to invest now more money into restoring wetlands outside of cities in order to protect themselves from flood risk. And we're finding that this is, in many cases, it's certainly a much more sustainable approach, and in many cases actually it makes more economic sense as well, because doing it through the traditional way of building walls around rivers and building dams and reservoirs and trying to control water availability through using hard physical engineering approaches is all well and good, but it's expensive. Operational costs are very high, and also eventually the system tends to break down. So we want to try to promote with cities a much more attention to how they can use nature, how they can use natural infrastructure to solve their water problems and to get multiple benefits. But one of the benefits of cities is often we get reduced costs for cities. Another benefit is that you get a nicer environment which your inhabitants of cities can go out on the weekend and go and visit. When you restore wetlands, you also restore the biodiversity that's in there. The birds will come back, the fish will come back, the water quality improves. And we're looking really for win-win situations now between nature and cities, instead of having the old way of having conflicts between cities, water use and nature, looking towards how you can actually get common areas of interest, common ground, and working together in order to get more sustainable solutions for water for cities.